Okay, here is my sample bucket of the material that I brought in from our pond back to the lab. And I first wanted to just show that even though I was only trying to collect the algae, although I wasn't screening it or trying to keep other things out, that when I look at this ecosystem inside of this sample, it's actually extremely vibrant. I've got all kinds of macroinvertebrates, small insects, larvae, all kinds of stuff living in here, along with my thick, dense mat of algae, and then all kinds of sticks and other material. And by the way, most of this material breakdown is much faster in the aquatic ecosystem. It's facilitated by the extra moisture and the ability of water to work as a solvent to help dissolve things. And so it's actually a really rich, very nutrient. I can see little worms and things swimming around in there. So I'm going to try to prepare some microscope slides to accompany this here. But really what we're focused on is the algae. So I've already prepared, and I just want to kind of show, I set up two containers that were identical to one another. This is container number 1, and I called this E1 because I was collecting this as a focus for my E section. I created some for my A section as well that are already set up in the windowsill. But this has 250 milliliters of water and 10 grams of wet algae. So they should be exactly the same. So I prepared one, and it's in this clear container. And then sample number 2, or treatment number 2, is in E2, and it's the exact same container. But in this container, I covered it with tin foil, so it's completely opaque and it cannot receive any sunlight. Without sunlight, I can do no photosynthesis. So although the algae is there, it's not going to be producing sugars as a product of photosynthesis. It's only going to be doing cell respiration. Then what I did next is I'm going to go and return these back to where they came from in the windowsill here. Which in this room, if you look around, you'll start noticing I've got all kinds of weird things. This is a great study, something that we'll look at, a longitudinal study that's been running for about 3 years. So I'm just gonna position it here, right next to that, more on that study that's on the right later. But this has been out in the sun, receiving sunlight in treatment type 1, and in treatment type 2, the one that's opaque, it can't receive any sunlight. These have been here for precisely 4 days. I measured the dissolved oxygen before, and now I'm going to bring them back into the lab and measure the dissolved oxygen for a second time. And then I'll share the data. We got the data, the first round in milligrams per liter squared, and I'm going to do a quick conversion to turn that into parts per million. But now what I'm going to do is take my second reading, using the dissolved oxygen vernier probe right here. It's been sitting in this wet solution so that it remains calibrated the whole time between when I measured or took my initial reading and my second reading. So now I just very simply put this dissolved oxygen probe in with the algae and let it sit and settle down. There's a little bit of disruption and a little bit of oxygen introduced when I put the probe into the water, so I need to leave it for about 15 or 20 seconds to allow for that to settle so I can get a proper reading. And then I'm going to take a dissolved oxygen reading for each one of these, and then we'll look at the difference and see what we can figure out.